Well, hey guys, this is Javier with the real Javier Novoa, and I'm older today than when you saw me last. Of course, that's funny because we're always older. Well, at least in linear time, because again, it's not really linear, but these time periods are basically just filters, as the great philosopher Kant has discussed, and others, which the Imaginists base their philosophy upon his foundations, but it's basically a filter to allow us to experience discrete objects and so on and so forth, and concepts, even images. And basically today, it's my birthday. And this year is sort of like a transition year symbolically, because I turned 39 today. I was born on October 3rd, 1985. And I just wanted to share some quick, if not contemplations, then tips for you. Some tips that I've learned over the last year that I've been implementing so that you can implement these, because a birthday is a symbolic time to sort of be able to reset and to renew. And of course, this birthday, the 39th birthday, is an especially symbolic time. We'll talk more about that, but you don't have to wait for a birthday for this, because every moment is a time of transition. Every new present moment is a moment that contains the entire future and the entire past, and so you're able to utilize that when you like. It's just more symbolic, and it's fun to do it on these transition periods like birthdays. And the reason why this is an especially significant one, at least for me, is because I will be turning 40 in 1 year, right now, less than 1 year. And that's significant because in all of the world's traditions, the age of 40 has been seen as a transition point. You're transitioning from a young man or a young person to a person with full maturity. In fact, in the Islamic tradition, this is very pronounced. In the Arabic language, the word shabab, which means young people, or shab, is from the age of, I believe, puberty to 40. And then after you cross the age of 40, you're no longer min ash-shabab. You're no longer among the young people. You're now a full adult. And of course, in the Quranic scripture, in the story of Joseph, or Yusuf alayhi salam, when it was said that he reached the propinquity of his maturity, that was said by many of the mufassirin, or many of the commentators upon the Quran, that was when he reached the age of 40. So the age of 40 is the full bloom of maturity. And of course, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, he became a prophet, was given prophethood at the age of 40. And again, this is all very symbolic, because in the lunar calendar, in the Hijri calendar, I am already 40, but just using this as sort of a transition to allow me to think about and reflect upon what I want to be true when I reach the propinquity of my maturity. So 40 is the age of maturity. Again, you could be turning 30, you could be turning 25, doesn't really matter. You can use this as a transition point to think about what you want your life to be like, and of course to generate more intentions. And I have generated a new list of intentions. Many of them included intentions that I've had before. I've accomplished, thankfully, many intentions of this year. Many intentions have manifested. Others I'm wanting to happen by the age of 40. I'm not going to share that entire list. It has to do with, of course, this channel, has to do with business, has to do with investing. It has to do with how I'm living now as a citizen of the United States and as a citizen of the world. Things I would like to see that are true. And basically in this video, I just want to share some tips with you that I've learned from my own. And so the first little tip that I want to share that you can take into this next year, that you can take into this period that we're going into, I had thought about it before, but it was really driven home to me very recently by a book that I read. And it's about the relativity of time, and it's about periodization, and it's about compressing time. Because as you know, as we just said, time is not really real. It's an illusion. And so we can make time mean whatever we want it to mean for us, and we can make it work for us. It was driven home to me by a book that I read very recently, never heard of it before, although it's over 10 years old, called The 12-Week Year. So what the book basically discusses is the fact that instead of seeing a year as 12 months, you can now see the year as 12 weeks, and every 3 months you have a year. The thesis is that you'll get more done in those 3 months than many people get done in a year. Why? Because if we see a year as so long, as stretching out so much, then it's going to be more difficult for us, as we talk about on this channel, to persist in the outcome and also to plan. You see, planning is a very beautiful thing, and I define planning rather differently than conventional authors and people. Many people who I've interviewed in the law of assumption modality, in interiorism, have said that we don't plan. And that's a beautiful thing if by planning what you mean is planning from anxiety or planning from a sense of obligation. But if planning is part and parcel of the process of what we call on this channel getting into state, and I think there's almost no better process for actually getting into state than allowing yourself to plan, then planning becomes the best thing that you can do, and even more important than the action or the execution itself. Of course, execution of that plan is key in the given time segments, but if you will allow yourself to actually plan and have a tabletop exercise, it actually saves you a lot of trouble and a lot of heartache later. See, plan comes from the Latin and Spanish word plano, which means flat, which means that you take a three-dimensional moving reality and you're able to put it down on a 2D flat surface, and there you're able to see all of the variables and all of the potential outcomes. Then you can follow those paths, you can see where the problems come, and you can deal with those ahead of time, thus cleaning up your vibration. So in that sense, planning is very important. Of course, we don't get attached to the plan, and we allow serendipity to also have its work. So don't think that you're going to get all of the details of the plan, but do sit down, do plan, and have a tabletop exercise. So that's my first little tip as my birthday present to you that I can give to you today. Instead of seeing your year as 12 months, see your year as 3 months. And of course, as Neville Goddard said, don't push it. Don't say, okay, I want to make $100,000 this year. Now I have to make $100,000 in 3 months. Depending on your level, you very well may be able to do that. But if you're just starting out at this, I'd recommend you divide that number by 4 and you focus on a number that is a little bit of a stretch so that you allow the room for that serendipity, but at the same time, it's not too much for you. As Neville Goddard said, when you visualize something, say, happening on a Sunday, he said, don't selfishly try to rush the time period, but rather put in a time period that you think is doable for you. And again, that's so that we don't go into despair. That's so that we can persist in the wish fulfilled. As you get better at this, you will be able to put more stretch goals and so on and so forth, or stretch intentions as we call them. Your year is no longer 12 months, guys. Your year is 12 weeks. Plan accordingly and celebrate a new year every 3 months as opposed to every 12 months. It's going to make your life better. Again, no attachment to the outcome. Expectation of a great outcome, but no attachment to outcome. That's our first tip here for you today. The second one that I want to talk about comes from the great Tim Ferriss. Of course, for those of you who don't know, Tim Ferriss is a great business, success, accelerated learning author on many topics. He's even branched into fiction. And guys, he said this, and this was a video that he had written about it before, but he released this video just a few days ago. He said, before you go into managing all the problems in your life, create first. Create before you manage. Let me explain it. This dovetails very nicely with what Abraham Hicks talks about. You see, the majority of us are already in to certain modalities. It's manifested either partially or fully, and now we're dealing with the manifestation. That's why Abraham Hicks says it's much more beautiful to have an idea that's not manifested yet, paradoxically. Why? Because it's pure. Because you can go to it any time that you want. Because it's easier to isolate the positive aspects of that and therefore enjoy it. Let's say you want a house. You can go imagine that house. You can feel yourself by the fireplace. That is going to manifest, but once it manifests, guess what? Now you've got to deal with storage. Alan Watts says now you've got to mow the damn lawn. Now you've got to clean it. And the purity of that vibration is often lost. We can, of course, bring it back, but it takes vibrational work. It takes spiritual and mental focus. But it's beautiful when it's not manifested. Once it's manifested, you're now the manager of that stuff. You're the manager of your job. You're the manager of your business. What Tim Ferriss says, especially if you're in a stressful time, when you wake up, set aside some time for yourself. We always say this on our channel. Meditate first, of course. Contemplate. And then get up and say, I'm going to focus my attention. I'm going to focus my time for an hour or for as ever long as you have to create something new. So you can start working on getting into the state of what you haven't manifested yet. You can start working on, say, writing a story. You can start working on making a plan for a new business. And I can attest to this, and Tim Ferriss talks about this. You feel good for the rest of your day, and you're able to manage everything better. Why? Because you took time for you, and you created before you went to go and be the manager. And so now, instead of the manager, you're the manifestor, and it's this channel that teaches you how to be the manifestor. Another great modality, a tip that I want to give you, this comes from the great John Gabriel. And of course, as many of you know, it's been at least in my adult life, thing for me to be working on my weight, so to speak, or to be working on my bodily aspects. Not for vanity or anything like this, but just for the sake of being a good example and being healthy. And of course, the most successful quote-unquote diet for me has been low carbohydrate. But again, diets, by design, you're not able to stay on them. And the one method that I discovered it years back, but I've been actually going into it full-heartedly because it's interiorism, guys. The one method for weight management is the John Gabriel method, the Gabriel method. If you haven't read his book, read it. And he talks about the fact that you're never to diet again. Because diet is deprivation. When you deprive yourself, those programs in your body which tell the body or stimulate it to produce fat will come into force again. It's called starvation mode. So, again, low carbohydrates best, but never go on a diet. And the one concept that I've taken from his works and that will apply to every aspect of your life, anything you're trying to do, is never subtract intentionally, add. At least in the beginning, add. So, let's say you're trying to lose weight and you love cake and you eat cake like every 3 days, or you eat sweets or bread. Don't take that out, but go and add healthy things. Add pure protein. Add raw organic vegetables. Of course, this is a program too, because what the state that I'm in and the state that I'm practicing is that I can eat anything that I want and be completely fit and be completely healthy. And I am eating anything that I want and continue to eat anything you want. But add those things that have a higher vibrational frequency, guys. And of course, you'll know that organic fruits, organic vegetables, nutritional yeast, proteins, and so on and so forth, those have a high vibration. So don't subtract, add. So these are just some tips that I wanted to give you guys on my birthday. Tips for productivity and tips for having your best year. First of all, your year is now 12 weeks. When you wake up in the morning, create before you manage, guys. And of course, add things, don't subtract things. I hope y'all have a very wonderful day. We have a lot of great videos coming out this week. More quality aspects, whether it be documentaries, interviews, and videos coming up. Stay tuned to the channel for that. I ask you, if you enjoy our videos, please do hit the subscribe button below. Not only will you be joining with the community of Master Manifestors, you'll be helping me get the word out. Till very soon, guys, with much love and appreciation, this is Javier with The Real Javier Novoa, bidding you a wonderful rest of the week and a wonderful weekend indeed.